Pledge allegiance, can you join me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, roll call.
President Everard,
Here.
Vice President Weatherworth,
Here.
Treasurer Zimmerman,
Present.
Secretary Zeller, absent. Trustee Brady, here. Trustee Leahy,
Yeah.
Trustee Zurich.
Here. Thank you. And could we consider a motion to appoint trustee Mike Zurich as secretary pro tem for the regular board of trustees meeting for tonight?
I'll make the motion. So
Okay, moved by Sean,
second
second by Ron.
Trustee Zurich,
Yes.
Vice President Weatherworth,
Yes.
Trustee Brady,
Yes.
Trustee Leahy,
Yes.
Treasurer Zimmerman,
Yes.
President Everard.
Yes. All right, thanks, Mike, and you'll be pinch hitting for Nora tonight, so appreciate that. All right, let's move on to the conservation ethics. So Mike, you're up.
Okay, goal number 6, to foster a conservation ethic among McHenry County citizens, helping all of us, regardless of the basis for our interest in nature, to develop a greater awareness of our role in and responsibility for the total community of life. A conservation ethic asks us to assume a moral duty to become educated about conservation issues and then act on that information. A conservation ethic is an attitude that recognizes the importance of preserving the natural heritage of the county's open space. Goal number 4, to interpret and promote the overall significance of natural and cultural resources, and to promote public understanding and support of district land management practices.
Okay, thank you. Bonnie?
We pledge to make a difference by standing up for our water, wildlife, and way of life in McHenry County. Our quality of life in McHenry County depends on healthy and sustainable natural resources, thoughtfully developed cities and towns, a strong economy, and beautiful outdoor places to explore, discover, and recreate. We will work vigilantly to influence the health and well-being of our county.
Good, Ron?
The land acknowledgement statement to the many indigenous groups and tribal nations, including Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Kota Dakota, Nasuk, Miami, Peoria, Potawatomi, Sauk, Meskwaki, McHenry County is part of their traditional homeland. We invite you to join us in offering respect to the indigenous people living here today and their ancestors' stewardship of the land. Together, we celebrate these special places, seek to learn and honor the history of those who came before us, and strive to forge meaningful relationships with indigenous communities to deepen our collective connection to the land.
Great, thank you very much. All right, adopt the agenda. Do we need a motion for that? Okay, so is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay, by Ron.
I'll
Second by Heather.
Trustee Leahy,
Yes.
Vice President Weatherworth,
Yes.
Trustee Zurich,
Yes.
Treasurer Zimmerman,
Yes.
Trustee Brady,
Yes.
President Everard.
Yes. All right, a lot of good stuff on the agenda. And next, special recognition and presentations. We have a new team member.
That's so exciting. We'll start with you.
It's my pleasure to introduce our new accounting assistant, Mrs. Miller Santana.
Welcome.
She's actually just completed her 1-month anniversary yesterday, and she's replacing Linda, who actually had her last day retired today. So Linda was part-time, so this is the first person filling the full-time position since the board approved it to go from part-time to full-time. We had over 170 applications for her. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No pressure.
We did do a skills test in the second kind of final round. She did very well and actually was the top scorer on it. I kind of put her on hump. I don't think she was with this MC Machinery Systems out of Elk Grove. And there she was actually responsible. She started out as a staff accountant or as an accounting assistant. And then in 2022 got promoted to being a staff accountant. And there she was responsible for all the accounting for the Canadian operation. So pretty big position, pretty big role. brings a lot to the table of the district. We're really excited to have her on. She also has a bachelor's degree in music business from Columbia University in Chicago. So welcome aboard, and we're excited.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Ben, all right, here we go.
Me for the third or fourth month in a row, I think now. So hopefully this is the last time you'll see me doing this portion of it for a while, but, Brian, let's come over here. This is Brian Estrada. He is our new maintenance worker, one here at the district, in our building maintenance crew. So it's kind of a unique position for us. We're looking for kind of the old cliche of a jack of all trades, in a building maintenance position. There's a lot of tradespeople out there that are specialized in electrical or plumbing or carpentry or things like that. We need somebody that's kind of well-rounded. And Brian certainly fit the bill for that. So he attended the building trade program at the College of Lake County. He was also in the Mid-America Carpenters Apprenticeship Program. And just comes to us with a wealth of experience through different positions he's held, in maintenance and repairs of buildings and facilities, groundskeeping and snow removal. So he's also been here about a month or so, about the same timeline as Marissa, and been fitting in great and helping us out tremendously, with the being shorthanded for a little time this fall. So we're excited to have Brian with us, and let you know, welcome him.
Hi, welcome, Brian. Heather?
So I didn't require Heather and Christine to be here tonight because many of you have met Christine. She's been with us, so she's not a new employee by any means. But she's been shifted over to become an education program coordinator too, instead of the previous position of outreach coordinator. We are super excited for her to move from Lost Valley to Prairie View, and for her to be able to take part in summer camps and all of the public programming that she's, wonderful at, and the school groups. So we're really looking forward to leveraging those skills that she has in this role.
Good, thank you. All right. John. Prairie Trail brand and wayfinding
Yeah,
plan?
that would be, I'm gonna turn that over to Sarah and Amy.
Oh, all right. Nice handoff. Great.
And they should be able to share, I think.
This evening, we are joined by Kevin Frommett and Gina Gherkin from Guide Studio Inc., who have been assisting the district in developing our Prairie Trail wayfinding plan. At this time, I would like to formally turn the floor over to Kevin and Gina to present an update on our progress to date, highlight key accomplishments, and to outline the next steps in the process.
All right.
All right, are we able to share our screen or is it being shared there?
Made you a co-host, so you should be able to share.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to introduce ourselves and kind of tell you a little bit about what we've been doing. So we're Guide Studio. We're a branding, communications, and wayfinding firm out of Cleveland, Ohio. And we design brands that, reflect the quality of places. So most of our work is with place branding. Then we activate the brands through templates and training and supportive communications. And then as we feel that signage and wayfinding is part of your brand, actually. So, and it's an extension of your brand. So that's why we're really excited to be part of this project, because we feel it's just a perfect fit for us. And we're excited because it's about branding the Prairie Trail and then providing a wayfinding and signage program to carry that brand through the physical environment. So we are thrilled to be working on the project. So I'll turn it over to Gina now to talk a little bit about the project itself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gina Gherkin. Kevin and I will be like switching back and forth throughout this presentation, so bear with us as we flip between us. So project overview, as Kevin said, we are really excited to be working on a cohesive brand identity for this project. And also to be doing a wayfinding system, and the wayfinding system that helps improve how users navigate, understand, and engage with the trail. This is meant to be a collaborative development effort. We've engaged with stakeholder groups, municipal partners, and technical experts, and will continue to do so. And what we're really trying to do is help you create a more connected, visible, and user-friendly prairie trail. So why does this matter? So we really want to build a unified trail identity across, you have 8 communities, multiple jurisdictions. So how can we unite things together? We want to help users confidently explore and understand where they are and what's nearby. Want to increase visibility and value of the Prairie Trail to residents and visitors, reduce signage confusion and inconsistency, and align with McHenry County Conservation District's commitment to stewardship, access, and connection. So a little bit about where we are in the process. So this is kind of an overview of our whole scope. We've gone through our research and engagement phase. We've done research. We've been out for a trail audit and discovery workshops with various groups. We've submitted key findings, brand strategy, done a wayfinding analysis, and a sign plan. And right now we're in the design phase. So exciting phase. We're through visual identity design, and we'll share some highlights from that. And sign program design, we actually are sharing with the steering committee this Thursday. So that is very much underway. But next up, we'll be doing sign programming. We'll do a style guide, sign standards manual, and implementation recommendations.
Okay, so the first thing we actually did, and I believe this was either in late August, maybe early September. I just know it was about 100 degrees. We actually audited the trail with Sarah and Amy, and so we literally spent, I think it was 2 days. One group started at the north end, the other group started at the south end, and we met in the middle, but we documented every single sign on the trail to get an understanding of, not only what kinds of signs you have and what's working and not working, but also to see like what conditions they're in, and just get better understanding of the kind of information you're trying to portray convey, on the trail. So these are just some photos of that. We broke it down into different categories. You have regulatory and safety signage, you have directional signage, identification signage, and some interpretive or educational signage. But then we really wanted to document the conditions of these signs, and again, like what's working, what's not working. So some overall observations. I won't read through the entire amount of text here, just to touch on some of the highlights. Some of the things we noticed: that signage is inconsistent. There's a lot of signage, so we call that visual clutter. You can see the picture in the upper right corner just has a lot of information to look at, so people tend to tune that out. And then some of the scale of the signage we felt was a little bit smaller or placed where you didn't notice it very much. Navigation and wayfinding observations, there's not a lot of hierarchy in the information. So when you're presenting information, you kind of want to have a hierarchy of what's the most important information. So we felt that was lacking a little bit. And then there's a lot of information, like I said, so it's overwhelming, which can become disorienting. Some safety and accessibility observations is that, again, the regulations themselves, there's a lot of regulations. So that's kind of a recurring theme. There's a lot of information being portrayed on these signs. So they're overly cluttered. And again, there's a lack of hierarchy of those rules. So again, without knowing where to look first, you kind of like, it gets confusing.
All right, I'll take back over for the brand strategy highlights. So this is really kind of a very, very slimmed down version. We're just sharing kind of two key outputs from the brand strategy that came out of our discovery meetings for the brand. So if we go to the next slide, the first thing we'll share is the distinct advantages that came up. And this is, from what we heard in the discovery process, what people said over and over again, these are kind of the things that rose to the top as far as what made Prairie Trail special and distinct from other trails. So this combination of things really sets you apart. So escape into nature was one of them. And like Kevin, I'm not going to read through all of these, but just so you have a sense of kind of what those advantages that were pulled out were. So we have escape into nature. And this is really about the Prairie Trail being an immersive experience for residents and visitors to experience your natural landscapes and this idea of discovery, memory making opportunities. Um, and the second distinct advantage is linking lives and landscapes. So, this is about that big span, 26 miles and 8 communities. It's a vital corridor that connects neighborhoods, local businesses, and natural spaces. And then we've got dependable by design. So this speaks to the Prairie Trail as being a well-maintained, hazard-free greenway that gives families and residents confidence to explore. Then we have a hub for active living. So Prairie Trail, of course, supports a lifestyle centered on wellness, recreation, and family-friendly activity. And also, the last one is driving local vitality. So beyond recreation, Prairie Trail strengthens the local economy and highlights McHenry County's cultural assets. Connecting people to downtowns, parks, and community destinations. The trail is very supportive of local businesses and visibility of cultural sites and things of that nature. So kind of acting as a bridge. So that's one of the major components. The other major component is the positioning statement. So the positioning statement is an internal statement. So this is something we broadcast externally, but it's a very important internal statement that articulates who you are, what you offer, who your audiences are, and what the end benefits are to them, while also speaking to those distinct advantages. So who uses this? We use it, of course, in everything we do, at every meeting we have. We read the positioning statement to make sure that what we're doing as far as brand and wayfinding go are in alignment with that positioning. But the McHenry County team and stakeholders can use the positioning statement as kind of an internal barometer and a decision-making tool for any actions, activities, communications that are put out to make sure they align with the brand. So I will read this one to you. The positioning statement for the Prairie Trail is: the Prairie Trail is McHenry County's signature corridor for residents, outdoor enthusiasts, and visitors seeking connection and discovery. Spanning 26 miles and linking 8 communities, it offers safe, accessible, and inspiring trails through prairies, oak woodlands, rivers, cultural destinations, and local businesses. More than a trail to walk or ride, it is a dependable community asset that unites people and places, fuels local vitality, and invites healthy living as a shared experience. Guided by commitment to access, reliability, and the conservation of the environment, the McHenry County Conservation District's Prairie Trail provides an escape into nature, strengthening pride, identity, and quality of life across the region.
All right, so jumping back to the wayfinding framework highlights. So I shared the audit before. So the audit was literally just documentation of the existing signs and some general observations about them. The wayfinding framework is what we use to build a strategy moving forward to improve the sign system. So listing some of the goals of the signage and wayfinding portion of the brand is to establish a cohesive identity. And that's, the identity is the brand, but in the physical environment, when we're talking about signage and wayfinding, we want to obviously improve navigation and safety, enhance the trail experience. So a lot of times when we're talking about signage and wayfinding, people think of, oh, it's, getting you from point A to point B, but we feel that it can do a lot more than that. So it's about the experience. It's not just about navigation. Navigation is a piece of that experience. Strengthen community and economic connections. So it's not just about wayfinding on the trail, but getting people into the towns and to the cultural assets. Integrating placemaking and public art, again, part of that experience. Expanding pre-trip and digital tools. So wayfinding doesn't just start when you're actually physically at a place. People plan trips, especially today with the internet and with websites and things like that. So we want to make sure that we're linking the physical experience to any kind of digital tools that people are using, and then ensuring long-term governance and adaptability, knowing that things change. We want to make sure that the system is something that can be managed, something that's modular so that things can be changed over time without having to change entire signs. And then also making sure that there's partnerships involved so that sort of everybody is kind of on board with helping maintain this system. Going into like nomenclature and what the signs are going to say and do, we have some guiding principles. So we want to connect people to the trail towns and the neighborhoods. Like I said before, it's not just about moving them on the trail. We want to elevate civic and cultural destinations. So we want to call those out while you're on the trail so that people know that there's destinations within these towns or adjacent to the trail that they can get to and experience. We want to link to parks and other trail, and obviously this is part of a trail network. We want it to be, an alternate way of transportation, essentially. So we want to make sure we're linking to other trails and trail networks. We want to make sure that there's access to mobility and essential services. So we're looking at ADA and other things like that. And then reinforce the trail identity through destinations. So what this one is talking about is that like the Prairie Trail brand is obviously going to live on the trail, but we also want businesses and places that are kind of within this region to, again, take on some role as being sort of a destination that is part of the Prairie Trail or the Prairie Trail region. And then on the right-hand side, on the bottom, you can see we've started identifying some common symbols, and this isn't the end all, but this is just the beginning of like some certain universally recognized symbols that we can use on the signage as well. And then part of this is is a shared responsibility, like I said, but like again, where does the trail signage begin and end, and where does the community wayfinding begin? So we had to kind of establish that. So the Prairie Trail signage system is going to identify trail destinations, which we've kind of we've loosely defined as destinations and amenities that are along the trail or like touching or within the immediate vicinity of the trail and are associated with the trail or McHenry County Conservation District. And then we're also going to direct to town destinations, but it's going to be the major public destinations that are typically arts and culture. We won't direct to private businesses, but we may call out retail and dining. We'll direct to downtown and historic districts and public transportation or public transit. So that's the responsibility of the trail program. Once you're off the trail, then it's the responsibility of those individual towns to pick up the communication and get people through their town to these destinations. And then coming back to the trail, the trails sign system will include trailblazers to the Prairie Trail from maybe 2 or 3 turns away, but we're not going to be directing throughout the entire town. And then other trails will, like I said, will be directing to other trails, but we would also hope that other trails would reciprocate that and obviously create that connection back and forth from the Prairie Trail to their trail and vice versa. So that's kind of like the guidelines of like what the scope of the Prairie Trail sign program is and where that responsibility begins and ends. And then we looked at nomenclature and information hierarchy. So from the Prairie Trail, like I said, this is just a breakdown. We identified and worked with the steering committee to identify what those trail destinations would be, what the town destinations would be, what the nearby trails would be, and then any other messages that would go on the signage. And right now, we're just really we started to define the trailheads and what the trailhead names would be. Obviously, those are important because they're wayfinding points, starts and beginnings for people. And then we went through all 26 miles of the trail. This is just an example. I think we broke it into 26 or 28 zones. I can't remember, just to make it more manageable. But this is just an example of what our framework had, where we started to identify challenging places or places that had we thought some opportunity to enhance the brand in the physical environment. We identified like these yellow circles are decision points, like where people are getting on and off the trail and where they might need to make a decision. And then you might not be able to see, but if I zoom in, you can see we've also kind of defined the paths to those destinations that we defined and how people are getting to and from them and what those decision points are. So we're starting to understand not only the trail, but also how the important amenities and how people are getting on and off the trail to experience those amenities. And we, like I said, we did that for the entire trail. This is just an example of one section of the trail. And then we zoomed in on some places and we went through and we picked out some like programming scenarios. So I think we did one through a city. So we did one like through Crystal Lake and what that scenario might be. We did one through a park, which is obviously this park, the Whispering Oaks and the Fort McHenry park. And we kind of started identifying very roughly what some opportunities are. And as you can see, we started identifying not only places for signage and traffic control, but we started looking at what other wayfinding elements could improve the experience. And that may include things like decorative crosswalks so that the pedestrian and biker feels a little more comfortable. And then it also alerts drivers that there's something happening within that zone. So doing some kind of maybe decorative crosswalk, which you can see in the sketch here. And we've identified where a trailhead or an information kiosk might be, where some safety is important when you're crossing the roads. And then looking at some places where some more placemaking elements might be beneficial. So identifying like here where you come out from the trail and you have to turn and go down to the crosswalk, are there things we can do to just kind of lead your eye down the road and improve that experience when you have to make that jog? And is it things on the ground? Is it adding banners to light poles? And then like I was talking about the decorative crosswalk. So you can see that instead of, that visual breadcrumb kind of just stopping at one point and then having to know to go over there, we're kind of connecting through signage and placemaking elements and getting you across the street safely. So that's just one of the scenarios we looked at. Like I said, we looked at, I think 3 or 4 typical scenarios just to get an understanding of like what those different scenarios would entail. And then we looked at what we call beyond wayfinding recommendations. Like I said, wayfinding isn't just about, signage on the trail. It's about other things that can make the experience better. So we looked at that as well. So looking at programming efforts on the trail and things like that. So now moving on from the wayfinding framework, we'll move back into the brand and kind of this is kind of the fun design portion of what we do.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so, you can see we ran the kind of discovery process, the strategy process for brand and wayfinding concurrently happened side by side. But the team is kind of aware and influenced and informed, both sides of the equation as we're going through. But as we get into design, we make a specific choice to move into the brand look and feel before we get into signage concepts. So we'll share with you the brand look and feel that was selected by the steering committee, but now that that's complete, the signage concepts are well underway using that. So if we move to the next slide, I'll just tell you a little bit about how this process worked for the brand design process. We first of all started with a mood board review. So this helps us talk to the steering committee about what we're looking for, what kind of imagery is resonating with them, what kind of color palettes are resonating with them, and things like that. So we can hit in themes to explore, so we can hit the ground running. So we did that exercise. You can see on this screen, there's a little kind of section of one of the mood boards. We also did a color study, and we're actually continuing to work through color right now as far as kind of looking at McHenry County brands, other organizations like Naturally McHenry County, and how we can kind of connect to those brands and live together with those brands, but also be distinctive. So we're looking at that as we're going through the process. We presented 4 design concepts to the steering committee. They selected actually a couple of concepts to move forward with in refinement, and then we ended up with a final design here, which here is our logo, our primary logo. So you can see that we're drawing from the gentle curves and landscapes of the trail, really celebrating the serene beauty of the journey. This is calm, inviting, thoughtful. And you can see that the mark really makes a shape in and of itself. One of the things I think the steering committee mentioned that they liked about this is that it made a mark for itself. It was very different than other marks and kind of really stood out. And we've got the McHenry County flag in there as well to really call this prairie trail out as McHenry County's trail. And if we move forward, this is the color palette, and you can see some of the inspiration images that influence the logo type. We're still, again, working through this color palette, and as actually we're getting into the sign program, that helps us decide what colors really work best in standing out in the sign program, as well as the brand. So one of the other things we provide as we're going through this process is different logo configurations. So you've seen the primary mark with the Prairie Trail locked up with McHenry County. We also have a flag version that is for a horizontal format, or it can end up be turned into a vertical format as well. And then we have our PT badge. So all of these components help the brand be able to work in different shapes and sizes, which we know we'll encounter and you'll see, not today, but when we get through the signage program, how those different applications really play out in the environment. What we also did with this program is develop a series of icons, graphics, and patterns. So the nice thing about working with the wayfinding program too is that influences these icons. A lot of these icons can be used, the style can be used both in the brand and the wayfinding program So we've already started to establish quite an extensive library of icons here. You can see that they're contained within different shapes, that they can be used in and out of the shapes. They can be used as background elements. We've got different pieces parts here that can be used across the board. And you can see here how some of those elements can come together to form a pattern or a graphic background. The PT on the bottom there forms a pattern, and then the different icons and elements we have kind of forming a pattern. And then some of the graphics are shown here in the Crystal Lake Trailhead kind of badge, which, you know, we could create for each of the trailheads. So these kinds of things just help us all understand how the brand can be used and how it works in different applications. So, you know, that's showing you some of the graphic and pattern options. And, you know, this is a library that's starting to be built now. And we will detail all of how to use it, how to expand upon it and whatnot in the style guide. But two, we want to show you how it can be used and kind of give examples of some ideas to use it in applications. So we've got your water bottle here where you can see using the icons on the water bottle and the flag version of the logo. And then we've got the pin with the PT and the main mark on the sweatshirt. And then some other application examples, the tote bag and notebook and even a little blanket. There are, you know, a number of ways this can be used. It's very exciting to kind of think about all of the fun stuff that you can make with it and also all of the practical ways it can be applied. Sign system development. So as we mentioned, this is underway now. It's going to be presented on Thursday to the steering committee. So we can't share that with you yet, but that is coming soon and we are excited to share that. And if we move to the next slide, I'll just go over the next steps in general.
Yeah,
You
and I just want to add one thing about the
sorry.
framework is that it helps us determine what sign types you're going to need. So you can see we've started planning out some of the sign types in this background image. Obviously, those aren't the designs, but they're just for us to kind of understand scale and kind of what's needed. Sorry.
No, that's good point. So coming up next, sign concepts. Then we'll flesh that out to the full sign system. We'll do sign programming. We'll do your brand style guide and sign standards. So that is where we are today. Thank you for taking the time to kind of let us talk through that with you. And we are here if you have any questions as well.
Great. Thank you very much. It's a good presentation, a lot of good work done there. Any questions or comments from the?
That's just excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Way outside of anything I thought of. But I do remember, you know, when I first moved to Crystal Lake and the two crossings up in McHenry and Crystal Lake, I do remember getting to those streets and just going, where do I go?
Wow, but it really gets confusing.
At Crystal Lake Avenue too. I just like, where do I go? And I remember just giving up and going back to the one. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Was that not the first trail in the country that was from a railroad that was turned in, converted? Did I dream that, or is that?
You're thinking of the Chicago-based Prairie Path.
Okay.
That one was an old rail trail. It was the first one. It was turned into a linear park. That's what they called it, a linear park.
Okay.
Wisconsin and Chicago fight over which one, whether that one or I think it's Elroy Sparta Trail, which actually was the first one that was converted under the Rail Trail Act or whatever it is. But Chicago started like I think it was in the 20s. Was that one?
Well, I guess we don't need a historical marker then saying that we. All right, well, thank you very much for that presentation, and good luck with the rest of your
Yeah.
Of
project.
course.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Again, it's being led. This is just a great program. So Sarah Rummel and Amy Peters from our planning department have been leaning and working with the stakeholders from the McHenry County Division of Transportation, National McHenry County, as well as many groups that were involved, which will be a similar process as we begin the Forward to 2040 plan. But again, it's been great. They've done an excellent job. It's been very collaborative. And timing is going to be more perfect with the planning that we're doing for our master.
Oh, nice work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Well, John, you're up again. You have somebody to hand this one off to?
That's pretty quick. I mean, thank you so much. I know you folks have been in here, in this room a lot. I looked at the number of meetings we've had in November. I'm gonna be brief, so I'm not gonna take up much more of your time here. I'm gonna cover a couple things. I'll give you a quick overview of what the operations, planning and public safety department is about. Just a quick division overview. I'm gonna talk about the people that are involved in it, including the leaders. They're also seated here today. We'll talk about their focus of some of the different departments. We'll talk about some of the things that they achieved in fiscal year 2025. A few highlights, and then we're going to talk about a few numbers, but not many, because I don't want to bore you. Next slide, thank you. In fiscal year 2025, some of you knew Perry, most of you knew Perry. He retired in April, right after the start of the fiscal year, or right after the end of this fiscal year. And shortly thereafter, we handed the reins to Ben O'Day. So Perry retired in April. Ben took over a couple of months later. So those are the leaders that were really responsible for that division or that work group. Including that work group are the there are two different branches of it. One is Parks and Fleet. The other one is building maintenance. In the Parks and Fleet group, there is a supervisor. Actually, there's a supervisor in each group. The Parks and Fleet have 12 rangers. Those are the people that are out dispersed down the sites doing the heavy lifting maintenance out there. There's a couple mechanics. They're up in the Rush Creek site. And then they have an administrative assistant that they share with the building maintenance. Building maintenance also has a supervisor, 3 maintenance workers. One is a lead and the other 2 are just maintenance workers. You heard one of them be introduced tonight, Brian. And then a part-time electrician and a couple of custodians. Probably run into Patty, who does this place. Next slide, please. Planning and development, Amy Peters is the manager there. She has 2 landscape architects. Amy's been here a long time, and so has Sarah Romo, been working here for a long time. Public safety, or our police department, Ryan Stewart, he's the chief. He works with 2 sergeants, 8 officers, and an administrative coordinator. That's the teams, the other 2 branches of the division. The focus of operations is basically they're often the first point of contact that people get when they're out there. They're out there doing, rounds, they're doing mowing, whatever it is, they're constantly in contact with people. So they're really, in some respects, ambassadors. They keep the sites looking clean, inviting, safe. That's what we're trying to, get enjoyable sites. And that's one of the things they do. They support the events education does, or the district does it in general. They also support natural resources. Many of them are fire trained, if not all of them are trained in prescription burning and will shift over and help when natural resources needs the assistance. They keep the wheels rolling on the cars, our fleet, keep them serviced and all of those things up and running. And then proactively, they're preserving the integrity of our structure. And that's what the building does. I say proactively because, and I couldn't have said that a few years ago, because we had slipped a little bit. In the last few years, we brought in the right people, the right staff, the right attitudes, and really back to proactive with our buildings. We're fixing it before it breaks sometimes. Planning and development focus, 3 or 4 different areas that they focus on. They design for, enhanced user experience, safety, and inclusion. I mean, they take all of those things into account when they're putting a design together on a site, no matter what it is. And so they have to look at things from lots of different angles. They're also our team that often have to interact or get to interact with the planners of other agencies. Get a municipality, give you an example, a municipality comes and says, hey, you guys have the Prairie Trail here. There's a new development going in here. We would like to, have our trails and sidewalks connect to that Prairie Trail. And they're the ones that have to work with them so that it's mutually beneficial. I mean, we can't just have them slap it in there. We have, it has to meet some specifications, has to meet the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so they get to reach out and work with those people to make sure that those things do happen. It's always, nobody has trouble complying, but we just sometimes have to point that out to them. So they get to do that. One of the things that, and I use them specifically, they're a great attribute for me in helping guide me and other stakeholders. So the idea of long-term solutions. When there's a crisis, I'm the guy that you want, or, I'm good at that. Boom, 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 quick decisions, decisive, move on, let's get the problem solved and move on. They have, and they offer to me this opportunity, to the whole division and to the district, this opportunity to take a look at it, take a step back, look at it from a larger scale. What is the long-term solution? That's one of the things that they focus on here, is what is the long-term solution to those kind of things. And lastly, they were both trained in infusing natural resources into their designs. And, the example is when you walk in here or walk out, the beautiful garden that's right out there, it's using native plants. They infused a lot of that wherever they can into our systems. So that's really their focus. Moving on to public safety, focus there is keeping, you see this phrase again, keeping sites inviting, enjoyable, and safe. Same thing as our operations team. And that's why all of these teams work very closely together in the division. Protecting natural resources, the lower left corner there, you can see somebody was out deciding it was going to be fun to get out in the mud and play around a little bit. Obviously we had to have a conversation with that person, probably involved in citation and whatnot. But that again is, destroying natural resources, and that's one of the things we want to try to prevent. And that's what they are very effective at. Ryan has made an effort out of getting more and more public programming in going out there. The concept being very simple, and that is get to the youth before they get to the point where they're making poor choices. Let them develop some respect for the people and the places that here, so that they're not making their poor choices here. If they're going to make them somewhere else. Protecting stakeholders, internal and external, that's paramount to what they do. And this last phrase, discover what they need and provide it, was given to me by a sergeant a few years ago. He didn't even know how profound it was or how I took it anyway, but he said, you know what cops do? What we do is we approach somebody, encounter somebody, find out what they need and give it to them. And he said, and he followed up with that may mean they just need directions. They could need someone to help, get them into their vehicle and change a tire. He said, or it could mean that they need to be removed from our site. He said, they may be crossed up with the law. And if we can get them back in front of that situation, they may need that too, to get straight with the law again. And so I've always held on to that. It was like, it's a very, very simple thing. And that's one of the things that they do and focus on. Division accomplishments, be remiss if I didn't talk about the ballot initiative. That took a lot of time. Everybody on the team worked on that. And if they weren't working directly on it, either a tabling event or something like that, they were covering for us that were out there doing that kind of stuff. That was obviously a huge success for the district, and we put a lot of time into it. The leadership change in operations took a lot of time too. We knew that Perry, somewhere around January, he announced that he was leaving, and it was going to be effective. That's a third of the year. Basically, we were prepping for that transition and getting that all in order. The Forward to 2040 plan, that's obviously took a lot of my time, and they're backfilling, picking up the slack where I can't pull it along. And then lastly, there were a couple of labor contracts that were approved during that fiscal year as well. So next slide, please. Operations highlights. This is things that occurred in fiscal year 2025. The leadership transition I've already mentioned. And also the board started wanting to invest in historic structures again. We painted a couple of structures. We also put a roof on one down the road here. So there was a little bit of investment back into historic structures. Hadn't been doing that for a while. One of the big ones was the backlog of vehicles, the shortages and the supply chain issues that basically started in 2020 left us behind in vehicles. And in that year, we replaced 15 vehicles. A big year for us is 5, 4 to 5. So it was 3 times now. So that was a lot of transition, and it's good to get that back on. Succession planning, growing the future leaders down in the center picture in the bottom there. That's a group that was at a conference. They're now networking. The whole concept is to grow these leaders, these future leaders of the district. And so they worked on that. This last one, the 2 highlighted numbers there, work order numbers. Work orders is how if something breaks, someone puts a work order in and we come and fix it. You can see that it doubled and almost doubled in numbers. I can tell you that they were not twice as busy. This is really more about the fact that people are finally embracing a new paperless work order system. Yeah, on 2 fronts. The first front is that staff have begun to realize that it's faster just to type it or put it in your phone and click send than it is to call the maintenance guy up and say, hey, could you swing by and take care of that for me? So that's the first front that changed. The second front that changed is that I finally got the maintenance guys convinced to say, yeah, I can get to that, but could you please fill out a work order on that? And then I'll come get it. And I don't have to try to remember. And they both see it as a simpler system. That's why that nearly doubled. And I would expect that to go to, I'll bet next year you'll see 2,200 there as more and more people become indoctrinated to it. Planning and development highlights. Before I get into the nuts and bolts, I want you to take a look at, there are 4 or 5, 4 of them highlighted dollar signs on there. Each one of those indicates that project was either funded with a grant, partially with a grant, partially with donations and a grant. So it involved outside money coming in. That takes a lot of time and attention and management, added management on their part to do that. Pro-trail wayfinding signage. I'm not going to say anything more about it. You guys heard everything you needed to hear about that. Great project. Hollows improvements. Most of that work was done in fiscal year 2025. We didn't open it until June, which was fiscal year 2026. But the lion's share of that work was done before that. Prairie Trail renovations. There were 2 big projects. One, I think, right down where Sean lives there, got renovated last year. The Hollows Farmstead, I want to point out that hibernaculum. We did a demo project down there. The buildings had dilapidated and needed to come down. They took it on and got them torn down. In the process of doing that, there was a well that needed to come out. As the well comes out and there's a well pit down there, and the contractor realizes there are snakes down in there. They're going, back into the walls and whatnot. And of course I don't know if it's October or something like that. And the contractor recognizes that's a hibernation or hibernaculum for snakes. So what they stopped the project rather than just fill it with pea gravel or sand or whatever was called for. They said, hey, could we work to bust up some of this concrete or stone or whatever it is that we had on site and actually put it down in there more methodically so that it could be used as a hibernaculum. So what you see there is right up through. They filled that all the way up. And over the course of the next few years, that will become more and more popular for snakes to go down and hibernate in. So, Brookdale landscaping project was right outside the door here. I mentioned that one. Donor benches and the amphitheater, again, using creative solution, renegade trails going down off that thing. And they thought, well, let's put some nice vegetation in here to see if we can spruce this up a little bit. And make it less attractive for people to. They're again working, I guess, with operations and working with police to kind of collectively come up with a solution to that. Public safety highlights, a couple of things. Last year was the first year that we did the veterans hunt. It was successful, but very labor intensive. Decided not to do it again this year. And are looking at tooling that into the regular hunting program somehow. I know they're working with Land Preservation and Natural Resources on that. Social work program, kind of a cool program. It's not new, but it's cool in that it's a consortium of municipalities and the sheriff's department all getting together to collaborate to have a social worker on the end of a phone if we need them. We encounter somebody in our sites and they are obviously in need of help. We can call out to this social worker. They can come out. We can get this person hooked up with them and they can get the resources they need to remedy the problem rather than just shove the problem somewhere else. Body cameras, that was a big item. Ryan spent a lot of time on that. His sergeant spent a lot of time on that. Policies, testing out the equipment, testing out the recording devices and the management system and all of the stuff that goes with it that got that done. The e-motos, obviously that was a huge issue last year and continues to be this year. Ryan and I got invited to a meeting in Cary. It was called by the village of Cary, who are trying to figure out what to do with their policy and whatnot. And at that meeting were all of the EMS players that are in the Cary area. The school district was there. And we sat in there and talked for a while, talked with them and listened and offered, information. We walked out of that. Ryan walked out with me and he looked over and he said, it's nice to be ahead of the game in this case. And I mean, honestly, we were the teachers at that meeting. So it felt good to, we were on the front side of that one. They still are on the front side of it. A few numbers. I only put some numbers here because I've found some interesting trends. Site use. Prior to 2020, we were running about 1 million site visitors every year. Obviously, it was a large spike with the COVID pandemic that went up to 2.5 or 2.3 million. I've seen two different numbers on it. I use the bigger one because that's more fun. And but post-COVID, nobody knew what was going to really happen. And what did happen was it dropped down, but not back down to those levels. And the theories and the hypothesis is that we had created another user group that now had found value in our sites. And that's so that average now is going to run about 1.2. And you can see in the highlighted number, that's what 2025 was right at that average. Some more site use numbers. I highlighted these. We just keep track of these. There's really no big differences except for the special events. I asked what the difference was, and someone's the individual who keeps track of it said that seemed to be a lot more weddings. So apparently 2025 was the year to get married in a conservation district site. Key performance indicators. Internally, staff does an analysis of how our sites are doing, and you can see from 2021 to 2025, the sites didn't move very much, down a little bit. But the one I do want to highlight is the trails went up because somewhere around 2021, 2022, we started investing in renovations of trails. We did it. The Prairie Trail was coming, basically it was at the end of its useful life, and we renovated those. And of course, that's an investment of dollars. There were grant dollars involved in some of those renovations. In fact, 2 of them I think had grant dollars into them. And it's amazing what happens to the score. It goes from a 3 to a 4.5 when the investment is made into them. Eventually, we're going to have to do some investment into our sites as well. Public safety numbers, not anything terribly significant here. I did want to point out the programs. You can see the number of programs have gone up 16 to 20, and attendance has gone up almost not quite double, but gone up significantly. And that was a focus that Ryan put on the department and wants to see go. I do apologize if anybody is red, green, colorblind. I want to draw your attention to the pie chart on the center there. The area in green, or the largest section of the pie chart, is what we call proactive measures. An example of a proactive measure would be the officer goes on foot patrol, walks over and just interacts with the people that are around the lake or over at the shelter or something like that. It's not us running around reacting to calls, call, because that's a reactive, that's not proactive. And the proactive side of it is, the nice thing about it is that the people that we want to see out using these sites are encouraged to, or say, hey, there's a police officer, I feel very safe in these sites. And by contrast, people with nefarious ideas or ill intentions get nervous and leave. And that's what we want. So you get them before they do something wrong. That's us in a nutshell. We present sites that are safe, enjoyable. We support the district's staff and other activities, functions and things like that. We create a place that people come to have a sense of being away, getting away from. Very important with all of the bombardment of screens and whatnot. And then often we're the first point of contact with site users. The police or the sites and fleet, or I should say the parks and fleet people are out there. And then lastly, protection of natural resources, our site users and our assets. So that's us in a nutshell. Are there any questions?
No, just that I encounter your team on fairly consistent basis, and every time it's just a positive experience. Cutting out trees, blowing the leaves off, filling in the mole holes, and they're just nice and friendly, and you just good hard workers.
Yeah,
Honestly.
that's nothing we've done to train them.
Yeah.
It is just who they are. Seriously. I mean, it's not, I don't have, one of the reasons I came to work here was because I saw that exact thing. I was in Boone County next door, and I came over and I looked at the quality of sites. I interacted with some of these staff. I'm like, hey, I gotta get over that because they do it right.
Yeah. Thank you for all that you and your team do. It's great stuff.
Wonderful. I will pass that on.
Did you have a comment?
I had just had a question. This had crossed my mind at a different point. I can't remember when. When you look at fleet replacement, do you ever find opportunity to explore hybrid or electric?
We have had 3 hybrid cars. We will probably bring another one into the fleet next year because the one that I drive is going out. Where we were with things was we took it to alternative fuels, which was E85, propane, and I can't remember the third, but those were where we took it. E85 for our use was an utter failure. Okay, we ended up scrapping that. Propane did the same thing. They just couldn't operate in the colder temperatures. And so I think if we were 200 miles south or 300 miles south, we would have a better chance of that. And so right now, what we did do is downsized. We got rid of, larger vehicles or sized them more appropriately for what they were needing. We brought in where we were replacing 1-ton trucks with half-ton trucks to try to, again, reduce that a little bit. I do believe that, in the future, and once the technology gets there, because I don't believe it's there yet, everything I've read, everything I've heard is that the technology for fleet vehicles in the electric fleet vehicles is not there yet. It's coming, it's just not there yet. And of course, the other thing that was I was immediately told by our building maintenance supervisor is, hey Kramer, none of our buildings are ready they don't have the juice they don't have the power there to supply those recharge things. Where we are going with some of that is in the hand tools. We're moving and migrating into that because the technology has come along with those and made them perform well enough. I just was at a meeting last week, and I was hearing this from other force reserves that the fleet vehicles, they're not quite there yet. So eventually I think we'll get there.
It's interesting.
Okay, all right. Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Paul's not here. Let's see. Trustees report. Any trustees? Anything to report out on?
Well, it was an excellent MCEDC meeting. Presentations was excellent. We had the president of NICOR. And I think the whole message that evening was the cohesiveness of this county, the individuals of this county, their desire to improve economically, to improve culturally, to It's a special county and that came across at this meeting.
Thank you for attending.
And I thought we did some good work, with the foundation too. So. That was, yeah, that was very creative. I thought, it was wonderful facilitation. I always admire being a facilitator myself, as sometimes people talk too much, but he really had, I thought, uncanny ability to engage everybody, so.
I agree there, yeah, very good. Anyone else? Elizabeth?
For me, let's see here. Well, I think you've had plenty. Thank you. It's been very busy this month. We've got 2 more meetings for December, which will be presenting the preliminary draft budget. So you'll see that, because then we'll have it up for moving it forward in January. So you'll have that to look forward to. Just have a happy Thanksgiving and appreciate, very grateful for a lot of great presentations, a lot of great momentum. It's just a wonderful opportunity and a lot of great pride just to see all the work that's going on. So thank you staff, thank you board, thank you to the community. May 26th will get it. Well said.
And I'll just report out, I attended the McCog on October, it was actually literally the day after last month's board meeting. Was at the Cary Hideaway, Joe's Hideaway or something.
Pilates.
Yeah, which I'm glad it was there, because I didn't know that place was there. I said,
Yeah,
oh, man,
good,
it is behind
good.
everything.
They have good kids menu items, believe it or not.
Well, there
They
you
seem
go.
kind of stuffy, but the kids like it too.
And then coming up, December 3rd, green drinks, this is, December's always a special meeting, and that is all the conservation groups will be presenting. They each gets like 5 minutes. Elizabeth will be representing us. And so each group will kind of talk about the highlights of their group. So
They had Dukes.
at Duke's, yeah. Social hour 5 to 6, presentation starts at 6, and it's pretty much like clockwork. They're done by 7:30, everybody's out of there. So if you haven't gone, this would be a good one to go to kind of see what's going on with all the different organizations.
And if we do attend, can we just show up? Or
Yeah,
do we-
yeah. I make a name tag and which they reuse. You're done, you put it back in the box, and they'll be there for the next time you come. But yeah, it's and you can order food there. You can, some people get there early, they have to order dinner. You can some people have appetizers brought up. The meeting's upstairs. So if you're going to Duke's, you can't find it. It's upstairs, and they have drink service up there as well as food.
And is it open to the public?
Yep.
I
And-
had one more thing, if I just interrupt, I forgot to mention here if I can. So a couple things actually from our leadership team meeting today. So Open Off, our auction is live, right? So if you're looking to live or to bid what's out there on our surplus, that is out. It closes when, Ben?
Monday.
Monday, okay, so get your bids in on Monday. Second, from our Land Preservation Natural Resources team, they talked about the molted sculpin, right? That was placed in the School Springs, right, area that used to be in Farm Field, a restoration project, and again, this is amazing. So first in Illinois, if not the first in the nation, of being able to reintroduce, and you could probably do a better job than I can on that, Zach and your team, Cindy Jablonski. So anything else that I missed on that? Just its significance. It's a
So
wow.
say it again.
I'm not sure.
What was reintroduced?
So, our wildlife ecologist, Cindy Jablonski, has been working with IDNR for about the past 5 years. About 5 years ago, mottled sculpin, which is a small little bottom-dwelling fish, was listed as state threatened. And she's been working with IDNR from the very beginning of the state recovery plan, because she had identified that this site had a potential good mottled sculpin habitat to be a site for translocation of that species, to get it into an area where it probably used to be in the past before the site was ditched and turned into a ditch agriculture. And now that we've restored it, provided the opportunity to get that species back in that site, give it access to a larger portion of the Upper Fox Rivershed, particularly in Nippersink. So this was the first year of a 3-year translocation effort. We were able to move about 70 individuals into this nice little restored creek in an area that it's 7 years ago is when the last row crop was harvested. So we've gone from row crop to a site that is of high enough quality that not only did IDNR allow us to move the state threatened species into it, they encouraged it. It was the first site in Illinois, and it's only the second time it's ever happened in the nation. First time was in Wisconsin decades ago. I don't even think it was. So, modeled it off of that.
That's nice.
Yeah. Would there be something in the newspaper or something?
With that, absolutely. So big wow there. You just keep hearing all these things. Too, the Village of Lake in the Hills as well. They were working on a neighborhood park. We've been working collaboratively, and they asked and tapped our team too about just if we could work with them, some ideas, and they're trying to do turtle education. So again, a lot of ideas came from our team, had crossed over, and the neighborhood group has identified to do some educational components, and actually there'll be a feature. There will be a turtle in one of their parks that they're having this near Exeter. So again, just a lot of collaboration. And then lastly, and then I'm done, the state conference. So we'll be sending information out if you have a board of trustees are interested in attending the conference. On the agenda this evening, you have specific alternates for the IEPD meeting. The Friday is the legislative awards luncheon. So generally board members, you're welcome to be there the entire time. A lot of times you'll come down just for the day on Friday, but you're more than welcome to be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We would just need to register and know what you need. So we'll get that information out to you tomorrow.
Great, thank you. All right. That's it for public comments.
I'm not seeing any raised hands online.
All right, thanks, Amelia. All right, approval of minutes from previous meetings. I guess.
This is my part.
I hand it over to you. Well, you're all set. You ready? Have you hyperventilated? You got your level ready?
I can't wait.
Go to it, Mike.
13.1, approval of the minutes of previous meetings. 13.1A, September 11th, 2025, Committee of the Whole Executive Session. 13.1B, October 21st, 2025, Regular Meeting. 13.2, Treasurer's Report. 13.2A, Acceptance of Treasurer's Report for October 31st, 2025 as presented. 13.2B, Acceptance of Variance Report Q2 Fiscal Year 2026. 13.3, Resolution 25-90, appointing Treasurer Zimmerman as the district's official delegate, Secretary Zeller as first alternate, President Everard as second alternate, and Executive Director Elizabeth Kessler as third alternate for the IAPD annual business meeting on January 31st, 2026. 13.4, Resolution 25-91, authorizing travel expenditures for 6 individuals to attend the 2026 IAPD/IPRA conference as included with the fiscal year 2026 budget for a total cost not to exceed $6,625. 13.5, Ordinance 25-1065, approving the amendments to Personnel Policy and Procedural Manual as presented. 13.6, Ordinance 25-1066, approving the amendments to the Comprehensive Administrative Policy and Procedural Manual as presented. 13.7, Resolution 25-92, ratifying the Conservation District's grant application to the Illinois Department of Transportation's local project funding program for the Hebron Trail Overpass Engineering Project. 13.8, Resolution 25-93, authorizing travel expenditures for the Great Lakes Park Training Institute Women in Parks Leadership Program at Pokagon State Park in Angola, Indiana, for plant ecologist Lori Ryan at a cost not to exceed $765. 13.9, Resolution 25-94, ratifying the Conservation District's participation in the McHenry County Conservation Foundation's grant application to the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency's Green Infrastructure Grant Opportunities Program to implement a hydrologic restoration project at Bludger Bog Conservation Area. 13.10, Resolution 2595. Authorizing the sale of 1,781 feet of stream credits to CP Logistics Davy Road LLC for impacts associated with LRC 2023 166 Davy Road Industrial. Stream credit pricing is $780 per linear foot for a total of $1,389,180 as per board approved pricing resolution 22-106.
All right, great. We have next. Motion to approve all those?
Just need a second.
Mike made the motion, Bonnie seconded. And any discussion on any items before we vote? Okay, just I'll ask a little bit about the credits, just to so everybody understands.
Yeah.
We have mitigated other wetlands, we've restored wetlands. That's how we gain the credits. Now somebody else is doing a project and they can buy those credits so that it's a net neutral. So just to understand that. And the timing. Can you have an idea on timing on that?
We'll get the receipt of the funds. Coming in.
He snapped his fingers, I'm sorry, maybe you didn't see that.
Now?
I mean, this is the intent to sell, so.
Yeah.
Soon.
Okay, imminent.
It's, yeah,
Okay.
imminent, very good word.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Incoming.
All right. Any other comments, questions? If not,
Treasurer Zimmerman,
Yes.
trustee Brady,
Yes.
trustee Leahy. Yes. Vice President Wazorek.
Yes.
Trustee Zurich
Yes.
and President Everard.
yes. All right. John?
14.1 will go payable for month of October 2025. 14.1A. Just want to make note that from last month's items that were pulled for the treasurer's internal audit, just wanted to make note that in your board packet, the two of them that I pulled, there was some additional information for. One of them was a Hinkley Springs that was pulled for just for the dollar amount for the shop. It just seemed high at the time. That came out to be because that delivery included additional water purchased for the bear trail. So that's why that one was high. And then enhanced networks, I had pulled that one because the invoice date seemed to be old and the dollar amount, same thing, was higher than the other bills. That came back because I guess enhanced network had not provided invoices to the district since February. So it was an extended bill. I did just respond back to Lloyd and Elizabeth that it's obviously our responsibility to pay on a 30-60 window, but if they're not billing, I don't expect the accounting department to be chasing after invoices so we can chase them down to pay. However, there still is a duty on our part that we're paying within the window of services rendered and finished, right? But hopefully it sounds like they just had maybe some staffing shortages and I'll clear that up. So anyways, that was from last month. For this month, 14.1A, I pulled 3 items for this month. Invoice B9381, best quality facility services for carpet cleaning for $7,100. Second one was C9349, Converging Technologies for the Lost Valley Visitor Center fire alarm replacement at $17,980. And Paragon Micro for a MacBook for $2,399.99. 14.1B, I make a motion to approve the payment of bills as indicated on the submission of bills pending report for month ending October 31st, 2025. We'll just take a second.
Second?
Seconded by Heather?
Vice President Wazorek,
Yes.
trustee Zurich,
Yes.
treasurer Zimmerman,
Yes.
trustee Brady,
Yes.
trustee Leahy.
Yes.
And President Everard.
Yes. All right, of energy bid.
So this one you have, it's under other board business because at the time, the board we authorized local county to go out competitively, but then the closing was occurred, so great positivity. That occurred, John, anything else on this?
Yeah, it's, we could stay, because, electricity is a commodity, we could stay with ComEd and pay their bill. A number of years ago, it's gotta be 15 now, we were out there trying to bid this stuff on our own, trying to find more competitive pricing for electricity. And we reached out to the county and learned that they were using a energy consultant. We were trying to jump on with them because we figured there's the economy of scale, we would have a lower rate then. And it turned out, and so they turned us on to this energy consultant. We talked with them, he ran our numbers and he said that you guys are actually better off bidding it on your own. And because of the way we use electricity is for whatever reason. So we've been with the same company they've been using for years. So end of the day, we still have to pay ComEd something, but for 15 of these sites, because of the volume of electricity that's used there, the energy companies out there, the providers, the brokers or whatever, they are interested in 15 of these sites. Through the bidding process, long and short of it is, we're saving about $12,000 over what we would be spending if we just stayed with ComEd. A few years ago, that number had actually dwindled down. I don't know why, but it was like 3,000 or 4,000. And I just time out. Is this worth the time? Is this worth the effort? Is this worth the bidding? Is this worth the board summaries and all the stuff that we got to do with it? And we bid it one more time and it turned back into the $7,000, $8,000 difference. So this one happens to be 12,000, which is higher than normal. Normally it's like 8,000 or 9,000, but yeah, pleased with it. So.
All right, move to approve.
So move.
All right, fine. Second, Ron? Yep.
Trustee Zurich,
Yes.
Treasurer Zimmerman,
Yes.
Vice President Wazorek,
Yes.
Trustee Brady. Yes. Trustee Leahy.
Yes.
President Everard.
Yes. Right, Andy, debt to reimburse funds?
Want an overview of it?
Um,
So the resolution that's in front of you for the would allow the board the flexibility. If we decide to issue $480,000 of debt certificates to do so, to repay for the land acquisition. I can't tell you right now if we're gonna need it. I know the 1.4 million we're gonna get for mitigation. That combined with a fund balance, assuming the debt service account, might get us over that hump. But the months we're looking at are April and May of 27, and half of June until we get that first property tax receipt. So, two things to keep in mind is one, you don't have to issue the debt. This just allows us to do it if you choose to. We have 18 months to do it from the time we pass this resolution today. The other thing to remember is in December 31st of next year, 2026, we have $2.3 million of debt certificates we have to refinance. So we're anticipating we'll issue new debt certificates to pay those old ones off. At that time, we're gonna, take on the cost of issuing debt. It's probably $40,000 in total to issue a refinancing debt. So if we also wanted to issue this or some other debt on top of that to use it, to pay back land acquisition, but really to fund operating needs, we're already going through that motion anyway. So this just allows us to piggyback the additional amount on.
okay, so it's just a safety net in case it's needed, all right, so anyone, to move to intent to issue debt to reimburse funds, use to purchase land? Anyone? Bonnie, second by Heather?
Vice President Wazorek,
Yes.
Treasurer Zimmerman,
Yes.
Trustee Zurich,
Yes.
Trustee Brady. Yes. Trustee Leahy,
Yes.
and President Everard.
Yes. Elizabeth already called on you for the executive director's report. Anything more to add?
Nothing's happened in the last.
All right. Public comments, anyone on the phone?
Not seeing any raised hands online.
All right, thank you. Then In that case, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion. All right, bye-bye. Mr. Sean?
And trustee Leahy. Yes. Trustee Zurich.
Yes.
Trustee Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Vice President Wazorek.
Yes.
President Everard.
Yes. Adjourn.